Hi beautiful souls, it's Tan back here today with another North Node in the houses and through the signs series. Today we're going to be doing North Node in the 3rd house and North Node in the 3rd house through the signs. So I have made a North Node introduction video, links up above and in the description box below, so you can watch that first to get a more deeper understanding of what my interpretation of the North Node is in a natal chart, and then you can come back and watch this video. So I'll be talking about the North Node in the 3rd house, and then in the last part of the video about North Node in each of the signs in the 3rd house. So if you have a North Node in the 3rd house, you're going to immediately have a South Node in the 9th house. If you are stuck in your South Node, you will feel that, your soul is slowly starting to decay, and there's a certain amount of discontentment with being too stuck in the South Node. But if you move towards the North Node too much, you may find that the North Node becomes a point of obsession in the chart. And it can lead to an overdoing of that house and a bit of a fanaticism. But if we can balance both, meaning that we move towards the North Node, but we don't forget the skills and the lessons that we have within us with regards to our South Node, we can feel that there is a new meaning in life, and that there are possibilities in life that we've never ever considered before. And then we begin to evolve in terms of our soul growth. That's why the North Node is really important in astrology. So if you have a 3rd house North Node and a 9th house South Node, the fragmentation of the soul lies in your inability to be able to keep up with and understand human connections through a process of exchanging ideas and conversation. The soul falls easily into a pattern of wanderlust, moving on to the next thing with freedom, even if it means you have to leave behind some important relationships and people in your life. This is very much a wanderlust of the body, much like a wild stallion, and sometimes a wanderlust of the mind, to forever expand your consciousness. Yet as you roam and seek, you still feel a certain amount of discontent as your soul slowly begins to decay. Because you are here in this life to learn to integrate your soul through a process of fitting your life in together with the lives of other people. So the 3rd house is the house of the lower mind, and the 9th house is the house of the higher mind. You must come out from being an encyclopedia of wisdom that you scatter here and there for people to pick up, and then you run off and wander off somewhere else. Because you have sought after the truth and you have already found it. You've already found enough of it in a past life, if you believe in that, or in the earlier parts of your life, your current life. There's nothing to search for. It's like you're on a road trip that you have already been on, and you've already made stops. You've already stopped at every stop along the way, yet you're still on it. Because it's what you're used to. It's your comfort zone. When you first get in touch with your North Node, and this can happen at any time in your life, depending on who you meet in life and the placements and aspects and signs of the other planets in your natal chart, and whether they support you on this journey or whether they pull you back from it. But the first encounter with the North Node tends to lead to a bit of an obsession, and with the North Node in the 3rd house, this can mean excessive studying, taking too many classes, and superficial conversations and gossiping about nothing in particular. But you are here to be a teacher of teachers. You are highly capable of bringing together all of your wisdom, and through more direct communication, teach that to the people in your community, environment, or in some educational setting. But you must learn the art of direct communication. You must stop the vague and evasiveness way in which you speak and communicate and present your ideas. You must grade your language. Spread your large and abstract, worldly truth and wisdom and your perspective of the truth to others as if you were talking to a child, as if they've never heard of this before. That's the only way that theories of the higher mind can really be understood. You are here to be the eternal teacher, but the best teachers are also some of the best students. They are forever students. So if you can listen to others' ideas and opinions without trying to fit it into your pre-existing belief of the truth or your existing belief system, you can make the space to influence. So a couple of things that you can do to get in touch with your North Node in the third house is to take workshops and classes to improve your skills and really learning to find your voice. What is it that you want to share? What is the message that you want to share with the world? So the sign that your North Node falls in is going to indicate the qualities and the traits that you need to develop in order to communicate your understanding of more abstract concepts to other people. So now we'll talk about North Node through each of the signs really briefly when it falls into the third house. And this is just a brief, quick summary because you do need to take into consideration aspects of the North Node and are there any other planets in that house and just the entirety of your natal chart. So if you have an Aries North Node in the third house, that means you have a Libra South Node in the ninth house. You have a very active mind and you need to learn the new things without thinking about what others are going to tell you that you should learn with regards to new things. You are learning to say what you really think, your opinions, in a straightforward way, not bending the truth, but at the same time not coming across as too pushy or aggressive and too forceful. Becoming an excellent debater and blazing the trails when it really comes to education. If you have a Taurus North Node in the third house, you will have a Scorpio South Node in the ninth house. And this placement really makes for a great teacher because of the methodical and patient way of the Taurus in learning and explaining things to others. It's like taking something deep and philosophical of a Sagittarius or Scorpio nature and then saying, it's really just common sense at the end of the day. It's like saying, hey, our bodies are made of stardust. These chemicals that we have here, they're coming from the stars. And that's actually common sense. Wow, I feel like I'm just attending Science 101 right here. If you have a Gemini North Node in the third house, well, you are learning to become all things Gemini because Gemini already rules the third house, and then your North Node is also in Gemini in the third house. You are learning to become someone who spontaneously picks up information and opinions as you go along just for the sake of it. Whether you agree with it or not, whether you're going to need it later or not, because you may or you may not, it's information anyways. You're learning to have a wide range of social contact and showing up for them so that you can learn and learn and learn. If you have a Cancer North Node in the third house, this is an excellent placement for learning to become a writer. Probably even about travels, a travel blogger or vlogger or content creator of some kind. Or even a fiction writer. You are learning to find a place where you can feel safe and you can belong. And this will be a lifetime search for you to find that community of belonging. If you have a Leo North Node in the third house, this is a great placement for someone who is learning the art of broadcasting and learning to and becoming famous because you are learning to speak up and speak big and not be shy about public speaking. You are learning to take pride in your mind and the knowledge that you have gained. Rather than feeling like, well, it must be for the people, it must save the world in some ways, otherwise it's not worth it. Well, it can only do that if you are proud enough to share it. If you have a Virgo North Node in the third house, you will have a Pisces South Node in the ninth house. So you're learning here to develop and become an excellent researcher and writer and editor, because writing requires a lot of editing and editing and editing. This is a great placement for a grammar teacher as well, by the way. You are learning to go into great detail on the subject of your interest, and I mean painstaking detail. Like if you're interested in fishes, you're really learning to go into the detail of the mechanics of fishes. Ultimately, you want to take your ideas, ultimately you want to take your beliefs and your philosophies and dissect them and then deconstruct them in a way that's going to make it easy for other people to understand. If you have a Libra North Node in the 3rd house, you're going to have an Aries South Node in the 9th house. This is a great placement for someone who is learning the wonderful powers of persuasion. If you don't force your ideas and perspective on others, but you craft it with diplomacy and tact, like it's simply just an opinion, then no one, well, very few people can turn away from what you have to say. But stick to the truth. If you have a Scorpio North Node in the 3rd house, you will have a Taurus South Node in the 9th house. With this placement, you are learning to not run away from the depths of your mind. The spiral down into your psyche can be scary because you don't know what you're going to dig up, but you must do it. And if you do, you become a Jedi mastermind. The disturbing way in which you communicate will shock people because what you say is so true. If you have a Sagittarius North Node in the 3rd house, you will have a Gemini South Node in the 9th house. And this placement, you're learning to become a great motivational speaker who sort of also self-promotes and maybe travels the world, like attending conferences, and inspiring people and teaching people about your belief systems that your mind has finally made logical sense of. You are learning to speak or write or communicate by adding a touch of that Sagittarius Jupiter wisdom to the things that you say or communicate. If you have a Capricorn North Node in the 3rd house, you have a Cancer South Node in the 9th house. And so when I say this, know that this is really true. Listen carefully. You possess great mental concentration and the ability to develop and improve the mind to a point of mastery. There is value to be said in tradition and the tried and true methods, so use that as a medium for communicating your beliefs and your truth and your more abstract perspectives. This is also a great placement for starting business because that requires some kind of strategy. If you have an Aquarius North Node in the 3rd house, you are going to have a Leo South Node in the 9th house. This is about learning to take that a vision of a better and ideal society and bring it to the masses. Think of like a journalist who investigates the impact of the carbon footprints of fossil fuels from different countries around the world and works to reduce that. This is a placement of learning to develop a tolerant and non-judgmental mindset. And this is really the placement of being friends with everyone, of people, different kinds of people, from different social, economic, racial, religious backgrounds, and bridging the gaps if there may be any. And last but not least, if you have a Pisces North Node in the 3rd house, you're going to have a Virgo South Node in the 9th house. You are here to learn to work with your intuition, the intuitive mind. There is great wisdom in what you say, but it comes across so subtly that people may misunderstand it. But sometimes that's really the only way to accurately translate the truth, the higher truths. There isn't a word for everything, and there doesn't have to be. And with this placement, you're learning to speak and use symbols and metaphors and analogies to communicate the higher truths. Because sometimes that's the only way that you can accurately do it. So that is my interpretation of North Node in the 3rd house through the signs. If you have this placement, let us know in the comments below what your experiences have been. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button below if you haven't. Which sign is your North Node in the 3rd house? Comment below and share with us your experience. And I do birth chart readings, synastry and relationship readings as well. All the information is on my website. You can check that out. And I'll be back very soon, beautiful souls. Have a beautiful day. Bye.